Ask the Podcast Coach for November 18th, 2023.
Let's get ready to podcast.
There it is. It's that music. It means it's Saturday morning, live from the School of Podcasting Studios. It's Ask the Podcast Coach, where you get your podcast questions answered live. I'm Dave Jackson from the School of Podcasting.com. It says so right there. And joining me right over there from Nebraska. Holy cow, that just sounds so far away. The one and only from Home Gadget Geeks. It's Jim Collison, everybody.
Hey, boy, you threw me off with that intro, Dave.
I know.
It's like
I'm just mixing it up.
What do I say now? Greetings, happy Saturday morning to you is what I say, and we're the invisible state. We just, we're out here in the middle of the country, Nebraska, and it's just a great place to live.
There you go. Great place to go hide.
Yeah,
they do make. What coffee are we drinking today?
That's a good question. Well, why don't we just pour it and I'll think about that. And I need some caffeine. Apparently, my brain isn't working this morning.
That's it.
How about we pour some coffee?
And of course, that coffee pour is brought to you by our good friend Mark over at podcastbranding.co. If you are looking to look good, like who doesn't want to look good? I'm on a treadmill every day trying to look good. Well, there's an easy way to make yourself look good, and that is you just go hire Mark. He has done multiple artwork for me, Ask the Podcast Coach, School of Podcasting, Podcast Rodeo Show, and he does so much more than artwork, although that's a great skill that he has. He can help you make a lead magnet, so if you're working on a PDF to give away, or hey, I just need a whole new website. It just looks pretty janky. And you don't want it. Jim, do you want to look janky? You don't want. No, nobody wants to look janky. So how do you fix that? It's easy. You go over and you see my buddy Mark over at podcastbranding.co. Not only is he an award-winning graphic artist, he's also a podcaster. So that whole thing about it's kind of like a radio show. No, you don't have to go through that because Mark knows exactly what it is. He's going to sit down with you one-on-one. He's going to look over everything you have and then make sure that your brand is in alignment with your stuff. So go check him out, Mark at podcastbranding.co.
And of course, a big thanks to our good friend Dan Lefebvre over there, based on a true story podcast.com. And it's going to be Thanksgiving week here in the United States coming up Thursday, and you're going to have Friday. Some of you are going to have Friday off, and maybe you're not going to have Friday off. Sneak this podcast in your earbuds, or as you got some extra time. It's just a good time of the year to try something new. So if you want something new to listen to and lots of great, interesting stories based on a true story podcast.com, get subscribed today. Dan, thanks for your sponsorship.
Yes, thank you. And I am off on Friday, so I'm excited about that. I didn't realize that.
That's nice.
So,
that's nice. Yeah. You wonder. It's a giant retail day, right? And so it's just going to be. I've been out of retail a long time. When I worked in the bank, that was a required day to work. You couldn't. Everybody had to be in at the bank on that Friday. So both when I was a teller and when I worked the back office, we worked those Fridays. So it's been nice. To get that, it's been nice to get that. Well, there's other perks to that, but it's been nice to get that. It is a good time, I think, from a podcasting perspective. If you do got some time, that holiday creates a long 4-day weekend for some folks. Maybe a good time to go in and start doing some planning for 2024, which is coming up, right? To think like, okay, what am I going to do differently, or what could I, what kind of things could I add? What should I take away? I've been thinking a lot about what needs to go away. We've been doing some cleanup here at the house.
Yeah.
Just kind of, my wife's now working from home and she's kind of re-nesting again, and stuff is flying out the door as she's throwing stuff away. Of course, boxes are coming in the other side of it as new stuff is showing up. But I think it's a good opportunity. It's before we get into December and before we get into the Christmas season, is to maybe do a inventory of your podcast and say, hey, for next year, this gives you a whole month to think, hey, do I want to add some things? Do I want to take some things away? Do I need new artwork? As we think about Mark, maybe you need some new artwork. You don't have to. And by the way, Dave, I think some people think when they rebrand, it's got to be absolutely everything. Right. And there could be some strategic things, right, that you don't have to do a whole new logo. You might just add some. This is where, and not to turn this into an ad for Mark, but this may be a spot where some consulting on that may be helpful. Of, yeah, this is good, but we really should clean this up. You know, stuff like that. I think this is a good time to think about that.
Yeah, it's and sometimes again, it's healthy to get a different set of eyes. I've had people find things on my website over the last probably a month and a half. Like, do you know that's not working? I'm like, oh, no, I didn't know that. So that's always good to do something.
Well, and listen, one more thought, and listen to some new podcasts, not podcasters who've been podcasting for 8 years that you've never heard before. Go and you get this opportunity all the time, just both with your job and with the rodeo, right? Of like get a new perspective, because I think sometimes we get trapped in these thoughts of, well, this is the way I've always done it, and maybe there's a new style or a new form or something that you'd like to give a try to, and maybe a new podcaster would spark that idea for you.
Yeah, and how do you know if you're going to like it or not unless you try it? I had somebody this week that were talking, and I said, well, record it this way and then turn around and record it that way and see which one was easier, see which one flowed, which one, just try it. And I think sometimes we still get hung up on everything we record is going to go public. And I'm like, no, only if you push it out there, and I get it. Like if I record my podcast twice, one of those was wasted time. And I can see falling into that kind of mindset, but it wasn't wasted time if you learned something from it. So don't be afraid to try new stuff, because it might be better. You never know. So one thing I'm not going to do that I see this all the time in the Facebook groups and things like that. Everybody's talking about, should I charge my guest? And this came up, and it's a article about how the FTC, here's how, this is a good red flag. The FTC has set up ftc.gov/influencer. Like, that's pretty much like when they're making a / whatever, like to make it easy to remember, that means, so basically this story talks about how there were some, we're talking, it's funny because they blame the lobbyists, not the companies, but a lobbying group whose members include Coke and Pepsi and the Canadian Sugar Institute, basically paid some TikTokers, some influencers, and those guys forgot to say, oh, by the way, we're getting paid by Coke and Pepsi. I mean, the lobbyists, and at the bottom it says that the potential fine is $50,120 per violation. And I was like, that would be painful if that was me. I don't know, have an extra 50 G's laying around. So, it's just one of those things where, and if you go to ftc.gov/influencer, they explain that if you're doing anything like that, you have to disclose, not at the end, at the beginning. And you hear these on Sunday morning radio a lot. The following is a paid promotion by Dr. Steve, the chiropractor, and blah, blah, blah. And as soon as you hear that, I almost always go, well, I don't want to listen to a commercial, and I go to another channel. So be careful with that, because, I'm not a big fan. I always say, look, you're getting paid in value by the guest who's bringing you great content. They're getting paid in exposure. Let's call it a draw. And, but it just seems like everybody, at least right now, it seems like, and look, there's nothing wrong with this, everybody's looking to make some coin. I don't know if it's the end of the year and they're like, wow, I've been doing this for X amount of time and I'm not making a dime. But there was one, let me find the one question, but it was really kind of like, how do I do the least amount of work for the most amount of money? And I'm like, that is like the worst question. Yeah. Any ideas why I help? Oh, well, here's one that, again, one of the things I think that really kills attitude. This guy says, any ideas would help. I'm thinking of starting a podcast. My goal is to have my podcast at the top 10 of Patreon subscribers. Whatever ideas you guys have that will accomplish that will help immensely. Left-wing politics, maybe a right-wing show, whatever increases the listenership. And I just was like, so when somebody says I will go left or right wing, whichever one's going to, work the best, that is typically not the way things work. It's usually, I have to talk about this. It's a subject I'm so passionate about. I want to get it out there. And to have somebody go, yeah, I'll, whichever one would bring me the most money, most subscribers, I will talk about that. And I just was like, my knee-jerk reaction was like, that's not typically how this works. I don't know. What do you think when you hear that, Jim?
Have you seen the rise of political media? That's what you would call it. Maybe starting. I mean, my dad complained about this back in the 70s, so it's not like a new thing. But you think of like Rush Limbaugh, probably kicking off the current wave of political media, and I think a lot of folks. I'm not sure all of that political fervor is honest. Like, I think the reason it seems so extreme is because extreme sells. And so like you got to go all the way to one side or the other to draw that audience in. And for whatever reason right now, extreme sells. And so, I get his point. I get your point about it being passion, but could you come in and host a show of something you're not passionate about, but have it be popular because it's on one end or the other of the political, in this case, of the political extremes? Yeah. I mean, you're going to, it make it difficult. Like, you're going to have to fake it. This is kind of what you're saying, Dave. How long do you want to fake that, whatever you're doing from being in that space? It's hard to fake it. That eventually you're kind of like, I can't believe I'm saying things like this. Well, like, what am I doing?
Well, I always wondered, because Stephen Colbert did the Colbert Report, where he played a character of this super right-wing, kind of person. And then he gets the nod to be the new late night guy, which I guess he's going away. I heard I forget the person they announced, but a female is going to take over, which would be cool.
Comedian.
Yeah, I forget her name, but but Colbert is definitely not right-leaning in at least not on his new show. And maybe he's a little in the middle, but CBS wants him to be, Orange Man bad. So to me, it's hard to be somebody you're not. And that's why I always say, just be yourself. And at Lipson, I'm doing a little more coaching. And there was a guy yesterday, and I can't wait for his podcast. He teaches psychology at a college, and he doesn't use textbooks. He's very much, he does his own thing, and he's super kind of wacky in a way, in a good kind of way, and just funny, and he loves to have fun. And I said, well, the one thing I got to tell you up front, don't stop being you. I said, because I haven't even heard a thing yet, and just his titles and everything, I go, just come on and be yourself. I said, and some people are going to hate that. I said, for the record, and other people will love it. So, keep that. So it'll be fun to see. We do have Randy's in the green room, and so this is always fun when we do new stuff.
That means I got to center up on the
That's
camera.
Right.
There we go.
And now I drag Randy into the middle. There he is. Excellent. Yeah, here's a great shot of my ear. It's excellent. Yeah, Randy, how are you, buddy?
I am great. How are you guys this morning?
Good. What's going on?
So last week, your camera went a little wonky there, Dave, with some reactions going on.
Yeah, we tried to do reactions before we went live today, and I'm still not as cool as Jim Collison. I cannot get balloons to come up.
You're on a Mac. Jim's on a Mac.
Yeah.
You both have updated to Mac OS Sonoma.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It is a feature of Mac OS Sonoma.
That's what I found out the other day. I was like,
figured that out.
It's a Mac feature. I thought it was an ECAM feature. Nope.
Yeah, when we were in the Zoom meeting on the Northeast Ohio Podcasters meetup, and I had the reactions going on.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on at that time. So find out it's actually built into Mac OS, and you don't have to do the gestures on the screen to get them to trigger.
That's what we found out. Look at Jim.
Up in the menu.
Jim's all into his techno. Exactly.
So, last week when that happened, I was like, that looks just like what happened in that meeting. And I'm trying to figure out what happened. And I heard on another podcast about, hey, this is built. No, it wasn't a podcast. It was a post on Reddit that someone talked about how someone on their team did a thumbs up
Yeah.
and it gave the reaction of a thumbs up on the screen. And the client they were working with on a Zoom call saw that and thought, "Oh, they're agreeing to the terms we just laid out."
Oh, oops.
And whether or not that was going to be an issue for them contractually after the fact. So it was pretty interesting. It can be turned off. You have to do it every time the camera loads up, but it can be turned off. You get a menu. Here, I'll share my. If you don't care, I'll share my screen.
Randy, what does Mac call the toolbar on the top? What do they have a name?
Menu bar. It's a menu bar.
Menu bar. Yeah, so it'll show up in your menu bar, and just click it. You'll see the camera. Click it. It'll drop down.
Yeah,
you get some. You get some background options too.
Yeah. Like I've got the portrait and the studio light stuff turned on right now, so it's blurry.
Yeah, I like the blurry background. And the other thing is, you can go into those features and adjust how much blurry it is, and how they have a spotlight mode. Like I could really make my background really dark. But yeah, I was like, okay, because here's the thing. I was, I bought a camera to make a blurry background. I'm like, well, that would have saved me about $800. I'm like, okay, great, wonderful. So now on the other hand, you have to buy a Mac, but for me, the Mac Mini, it's like, that's a good deal.
Yeah.
So
double thumbs up.
I work in education, so I can get the education pricing for the Mac Mini. So instead of $599, I can get the base for $499.
There you go.
So it's not bad. I mean, I've got a MacBook Air right now. Works perfect for what I do.
It's good. It's a good podcasting machine. Like I've said this before, I think a Mac is a really good podcasting machine.
Yeah. There you go.
But I saw that last week. Thought I'd throw it up there for you guys.
Thanks, Randy. Yeah,
appreciate it, my friend.
Helpful. Appreciate that.
Yep.
And where can we find your show?
You can find everything Randall Black at randallblack.com.
There you go. Very cool, my friend.
Links to current and former podcasts are there, all online. So there you go. Get to.
randallblack.com. Thanks, man.
So no problem. Have a good day, guys.
We'll see you.
Yeah, you too. Have a good Saturday. Double thumbs up, by the way, on that background for the. Oh, that's kind of weird. It's not doing full screen on that one.
And Chris Stone from castahead.net. You have to turn it off every time you log in. Oh man, that has to change.
Do the hearts bring up the heart thing? They do.
Jim has a new toy. It's like a kid playing with a box at Christmas.
This is awful. Everything I've never wanted in a podcasting rig, and all these things are showing up.
Danny Brown from Captivate. So this is what you all get up on a Saturday morning. Yeah, this is what we do. We just play with Mac features and make the screen blink, things like that. I did have, speaking of Captivate, I had a question. Somebody was talking about they were on, I don't know if I brought this question over, but there's a company called Bcast, and their whole big thing when they first came out was they did some sort of insertion. But they had a limit on the number of downloads. And this was a person that basically was having a decent amount of downloads per month. And I think their limit was 35,000. And so they're going to have to go to like an $80 plan to keep this, dynamic feature and all this other stuff. To which I said, hey, Captivate A has like one of the slickest dynamic tools out there, and B, you could go to $50 a month and have I think it's 150,000 downloads a month. I was like, so I don't hate Bcast. I've just never been overly impressed with their feature set. And I'm like, it's not bad. I'm just there are better options. So I was like, yeah, you can save yourself a lot of money. So and Jay, speaking of Macs, welcome to the Mac Hour. It is. Well, Christmas has come early in the Bryant family. Upgrading to Mac Studio should be arriving here in about 10 days. And so I guess we could always throw that question out, being that we should really throw it out next week because it'll be Black Saturday at that point. But anything, I'm pretty set for gear, I think. Like I said, I just got a camera that I now don't need. Thank you, Apple. I got lights. I got my little studio stand. Let me drag this out for a second. Oh, wow, my desk is very messy. But I'm going to drag a camera on top of me So for the audience listening to this, okay, there. Can you see the stand here? It's there. There it is, and I've got a stand with nothing on it, and then another stand with my 2 cameras. And if I wanted to, I could add another stand down here, which right now, to see, when I say my desk is messy,
Oh, good heavens,
it's ridiculous. Yeah. So, but it's this was $50 for this.
We unboxed that last week, right?
We did. We unboxed it last week. So that's the joy of that. So it's in use now, and for $50,
every neat freak is now losing their minds. They want to come over. Like, can I come over and just fix that?
Here's the thing: you can actually almost see my desk. I mean, there are times when it's just piles of stuff, especially if I'm unboxing stuff. So that's always fun. So meanwhile, back in the land of questions.
Well, I think it's helpful. Hold on, before you jump off that, that the stand that you bought, it's so versatile. I think it's really, really helpful to have that kind of stuff. I mean, it's obviously not helping you yet, but to have something to get things off of your desk, so you have some as a podcaster, especially when you're live, because there's a lot of things going on. And so I think that's a good, also a good time to maybe organize your monitors. You can buy those stands just for monitors. Get them up off your desk, get them organized, get some space going around. I've lifted mine and then I put the speakers underneath the monitors. It's just kind of it's a space. I've got the O2 underneath it. It creates some space for that. So good way to gain back some efficiencies on your desk.
Yeah, we have some Christmas wish lists here. Daniel J. Lewis says, I'm hoping for a deal on the Elgato teleprompter. I pulled the trigger on that. I saw too many videos and was like, I need this now. A NAS hard drive. Well, here's the fun thing. And this was, I was kind of like, and in fact, even it's the new Cabbage Patch Kid, Danny Brown. I was hoping for the Elgato, but wait list is until March. Wow, that might be you. I ordered it because it said in stock, and I was like, oh my God, order now, right? And then once they get my credit card and charge, oh yeah, it'll ship in December. And I was like, that's not what the thing said on the page. So that was, that was not cool. But yeah. But speaking of Black Friday and deals, we're going to take a slight left turn. I signed up for one Black Friday deal, and that is Walmart Plus. Because I've thought about it, and I was like, I literally 10 minutes from a Walmart. If I want to go there, it's right by my church, so I'm there once a week anyway. And then I log into their website to see, because I've been playing with this site called TEMU, TEMU, and I was comparing prices on TEMU and Amazon and Walmart. And Walmart says, hey, you can get Walmart Plus for $50. It's normally $100. And of course, Jim Gaffigan has been telling me all the great things that I can get on that. I love Jim Gaffigan. So I was like, you know what? And it comes with Paramount Plus. Well, Paramount Plus has the new Frasier, which I thought was odd that it's not on CBS, but $50 for a year of Frasier. I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to get enough value out of this to plunk down $50. And of course, next year it'll be $99. And so I had a friend in last week, and we went to the gym. We get back to my house, and he's like, hey, is it okay? Like, I know it's weird. He's like, can I take a shower here? He's like, I'm getting kind of stinky. And I'm like, sure. And to make a long story short, I was short on washcloths. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to order 5 washcloths. I'll never be out of those again. And I go to Walmart, $1.27 for a black washcloth. Awesome. Oh, by the way, you have to buy $35 worth of stuff per the order to get free shipping. And I was like, wait, that's not what Amazon does. Amazon give me free ship. Now, also Amazon's $150. And I was like, that's kind of interesting. So that was kind of that. So then I'm like, well, I do want to watch the new Frasier. So I log in, set up my Paramount Plus account, and there is it's like you're watching TV. There are commercials, plenty. And I'm talking like back in the days of Chuck Woolery, like I'll see you in 2 and 2, right? And it's 2 minutes of ads and sometimes more. And I was like, and there's no Skippy. There's nope, sorry. And I was like, but I'm paying you money, or Walmart's paying you money. And apparently they're not. I'm sure I haven't looked into it yet. But I'm sure there's a way I can give them more money and they'll turn off the ads. But I just, so far, the experience, because you're like, Dave, what does this have to do with podcasting? The experience, like, what's the experience like if somebody goes to your website? How many clicks do they have to go through before they can actually click play on something? Or if you want them to subscribe, how easy is it to them to follow the show? Things like that, because you want people to have a good experience. I listened to, Smartless this week, because, it's a popular show. They got a big deal from Amazon. And again, we're going to bend into another little topic here. Celebrities get different rules. Like so it's Jason Bateman, it's the guy from Will and Grace, and the guy that does the voice of Batman for Lego, Will Arnett. And they are close friends. And so there was a lot they did have really good dad jokes at the beginning. I'll give them credit. And then they had a lot of conversation that if you don't know them, it didn't make any sense. But I listened because they were interviewing the drummer of Metallica. And when they brought him on, they were talking about Mike somebody that everybody in the room knew who Mike somebody was. And they're like, oh, yeah, and that guy texts you like 500 times for one mess. And they're all laughing. And I'm like, this whole show was like a giant inside joke. And so, again, not a great experience. Going back to Walmart Plus, not a great experience. So make sure your podcast is delivering not only great content, but how hard is it to get your content? Jim, you ever have anything that you're just like, well, that was a lot of work to finally get to, what you need, or
to finally get to something?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that is a really good question. I've probably in the tech space, I've probably come across some things where over the last couple years, I've gone on a journey to figure out how to do live in-person translations. And I have done so many different gyrations to get it to work. And then for a while, we demoed it here on this show. I got it working with the Microsoft translator, and then Microsoft deprecated their web interface for it, and you have to do it off the phone. So I spent some more time. I think I'm finally to that point. I did a podcast in Portuguese and in Spanish this week, and was able to listen along. Had to get some. The phone is basically doing it. The point is that, yeah, you do all these gyrations, and I've started it, and then you're like, oh, this is just too much work to do all this, and then stopped it, and went back. That's a huge consideration when you're thinking about adding things to your podcast. You're like, how much more work is this going to be? I'm thinking about like all this AI conversations that we've had lately, and I'm doing a lot more in my show notes. But it's taking me a lot more time because I'm spending a lot more time with AI, having it create stuff for me. And so you kind of wonder, like, and then I've been monitoring since I've been putting more content in my show notes. And I think my show notes are better than they've ever been, right? I'm getting more content in there. I'm not seeing like instant numbers of all of a sudden Google, rewarding me for that. So that could be another one of those areas where, you could kind of think, I think you can go down the AI rabbit hole right now. And even with some of the services, when like Swell.ai and Otter and some of those, they create a bunch of things for you. And then you're like, now I'm spending time trying to figure out which of the 5,000 things that I have options with. So
yeah. That's what I'm finding. I use Cast Magic, and it's like, oh, do I use the newsletter version, or do I use the article, or which summary? I like the summary. Yeah, it's paralysis through analysis again. They're giving you so much stuff. So
yeah, and I'm finding like with some of these that at the beginning of the show, I have a standard intro that I read, and then we talk about the weather for a minute, and because I always say podcasting live from a beautiful Bellevue, Nebraska, and I'll say, hey, how's the weather where you're at? Or we'll talk about the weather. The AI wants to bring the weather conversation in as a topic. So I almost need to find a way to say, for some of these services, and maybe this is going to be an option in the future, ignore the first 5 minutes, because that's intro stuff. I say, I have the, Home Gadget Geeks, news, reviews, product conversation, update for the average tech guy. AI tries to use that. And so maybe I need to give it some more clues to say, no, don't, that's not part of the show. That's not that's every week. Start your thinking here at the 2-minute mark or at the 3-minute mark. So I don't know. I just, I'm thinking about that live and in real time, but maybe that's some thinking. I guess I wonder if you could tell the AI in there, hey, I want a summary of this podcast and start here, start at this. I don't know.
Probably because I know Larry Roberts, the Red Hat marketing guy, is such a great idea. Every time I see everything with the red hat, I'm like, that's so simple and so good. But he was talking about there's a way. Now, you have to pay for ChatGPT to do this, and it's a little WordPressy like, where you have plugins now for ChatGPT, and one of them is you put in the link of a YouTube video, it in quotation marks listens to it, and then summarizes it. And I'm like, that's putting a lot of faith in that it's not going to make stuff up. But I've been using it. I brought back the Akron podcast, and I'll find a story. I will copy it. First of all, I have found in newspapers, the first 2 paragraphs of the story, the last 3 paragraphs are some mild advertisement that is going to, this is brought to you by the Sloan Foundation. I'm like, oh, okay, that's why we're wrong. Like, why are we talking about this? Oh, because we want to say Sloan Foundation or the J.S. Knight Foundation, which apparently is some almost like a evil Batman villain, but does good. I mean, they I don't know who they are, but they're constantly giving millions of dollars for things in Akron, Ohio. But it's just, it keeps going and going. I do want to hear, Danny brought up a great topic. It feels now like there are more AI tools for podcasting than there are podcasters. Yeah, I used.
There's a lot. It's going to be even more because there's a store coming for ChatGPT, where you can submit your bots and those kinds of things.
Well,
in a curated sense. Yeah.
Mike Russell at Music Radio Creative showed a thing in 11 Labs, and I kind of did this. I will try to play one, and this kind of fits for today's episode. Hopefully you can hear this when it comes up.
Oh, lovely. Here comes another 10-second tangent from Dave. Brilliant. Such absolute rubbish.
Right. So that's I just when I said, give me a British voice, and then I said, make it older. And then the thing that's weird about it is I can say, generate the voice and go, ooh, that was like what I ended up doing. Here's another one.
So for crying out loud, here comes another 10-second tangent. 10 seconds indeed. Such absolute rubbish.
Is I had to just keep saying, generate the voice. Like I really wanted somebody to go rubbish, like they're just disgusted, rubbish. And I could not really get a rubbish. And Mike showed, again, from Music Radio Creative, that it's a beta version, maybe even alpha, that he took his wife's voice and you can now basically talk into it. So if I wanted it to be sarcastic, like, holy cow, Jim Cullison, oh, such a good guy. And then whatever AI voice will mimic your inflection. And I was like, oh, that's because he was like, Mike Russell is the best husband ever, and but it's his wife's voice. So it's one of those things that I was like, all right. And the music I use Audio Blocks. I have a yearly subscription to that. And I have one more of these.
Oh no, here we go. It's time for a 10-second tangent. Dave's going to fly off on another subject that isn't really related to what we're talking about. 10-second my ass. Rubbish.
that wasn't a bad rubbish.
Yeah. Rubbish. So, but I ended up, I went into Hindenburg and I hit generate the voice. It would record it. I had about 8 of those. And then I just took the, oh, great. And I'm like, okay, that's a good, oh, great. Let's grab, okay, here's a good rubbish. And I just put them together and put the music together. So it wasn't a case where it was like, oh, this is perfect. I was like, okay, that was a good rubbish. You know, I also need, Danny, if you can give me more great English slang. Like, I know there's bugger, like, oh, bugger. And I don't know if that's really like, is that like the F word? And I don't want to like throw something really naughty. Like everybody in you know, the UK is going, oh, I can't believe Dave said bugger. But I was trying to Google.
Just don't say you're not going to wear any pants. That doesn't work. That works well in the United States. Does not translate very well in the UK.
So, let's go over and see what the chat room's been up to while we're talking. If you notice, I'm doing something a little different, and I'm trying not to be so squirrel-esque, where I jump into. I'm going to go.
Fine.
But Chris says Smartlist, that podcast, does a number of visual things without providing verbal context. Yeah, that's always great in the audio version. That's very Joe Rogan of them. Joe likes to do that. Oh, look at that. Oh, man. Oh, geez. Oh, look at it. Yeah, thanks, Joe. Daniel says, totally not podcasting related, but I'm probably going to buy my first soda stream on a great sale at Sam's Club. I bought the Circle. Have you seen this? It's CIRKUL. I'm like, can that be any more coolly spelled? And it's a weird thing. To me, it's a little too much work, but you put this on any kind of 20-ounce kind of, you know, thing, and then you buy what looks like an elephant tampon, or not even. Yeah, it's this really long tubular thing. It's big, and then you screw it into the top of the thing, and it has flavor, so that as you drink the water in the flavor thing, you end up doing the whole. Like, there's no way to get rid of that sound. And I was like, after a while, I was like, you know, I'm just gonna buy the little squirty things that you squirt into water, and that will do the trick. Other things, Rich has the answer. We're talking about that female. Colbert isn't leaving. Taylor Tomlinson is taking over the late spot after Colbert. So which is funny. The good question is, who's currently doing the late? Is that?
I don't know if it exists. I don't know. I don't.
No, that's right. It was a game show or something.
Yeah.
It was something that wasn't, because it was Carson Daly. No, that was NBC. It's so funny that it's like we're all like, I don't know who watches.
It's a lot easier just to watch the spots on YouTube later. Like, you get the best of it anyway, and you don't, you know, I don't have to sit through all the commercials or stay up that late to watch it live or whatever. So yeah, it's been a while since I've watched those. And
Danny Brown asks, is TEMU legit?
No.
I was look at it and I'm never sure. And I've ordered a country, like the crappy red tree behind me. I have two. The one on my, let's see, on your, whatever. The one I'm pointing at left is from Walmart or from Amazon. Not bad. Yeah. The one on the right here, this little baby one, it was like $7, where I think this one was 15. Not great. But I did buy a thing that you put your phone in and strap it to your arm for like $1.30. That works like a champ. I've gotten a bunch of sweatshirts for like $7 that weren't bad. I'm just worried that I'm somehow, because it's obviously a drop shipment from China. If you look at their website, it shows that they're in Maine. And I'm like, well, that's where all the shipments are coming in. But
it's a U.S. address. It literally is just a U.S. address. That's so they can sell here in the U.S. I had an Erin Lawrence on Home Gadget Geeks. We just talked about this on Thursday night, and she bought some things from there, especially gadgets. And no, do not buy electronics from TEMU. They're good for things like you were talking about, like the tree, the Christmas tree, and maybe things you would buy at the dollar store.
It is.
Right. It's that kind of, it's like a really bad dollar store. You know, don't buy earbuds there. Don't buy any kind of consumer electronics. Don't buy speakers or, you know, Bluetooth speakers or some of those kinds of things. You know,
I bought a little like 8-inch light that via, you know, tape and magnets will go underneath my cabinet. So I can just press a button, and that seems to work okay. But it's also one of those things where you're buying stuff that if it doesn't work, you go, well,
you're not returning.
You're not returning it. You're also not surprised because it's not like, ooh, this is built very solid. It's kind of like, well, I'm gonna tape this under my cabinet, and if this thing breaks, we're in a world of hurt. I'm not gonna be surprised. It doesn't look like Yeah.
Aaron bought some ambient lighting to put, like you did, but it was 2 sticks to put behind something to create some backlighting. She said when she turned them on, it actually got darker. So it was,
Nice.
she's like, I don't know about TEMU. So be very, very cautious with TEMU.
Yeah, it's only spend money you're willing to lose. It is a gamble.
Yeah, you're not going to return it. You're just not going to do it. Yeah.
Here's a fun one. This is from Craig over at livewellandflourish.com. I opened my class final exam with his dad joke. Jim, I know the answer. You've probably seen it already. It's in the chat. What do you call a boomerang that doesn't return?
I do not know.
A stick. There we go. He's here all week. Excellent.
Oh.
All right. Meanwhile, let's go find another question. Here's my content strategy. It's pretty simple. 1 video per day. That's it. All I need is 1 video per day. And that goes to Instagram, Facebook, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, LinkedIn. And it did take a while for me to get a consistent flow of videos for every day of every week of every year. So it's hard, sure. But you know what? There's money where there's struggle. And that's an interesting statement. I know Dan from Based on a True Story podcast had commented on this and kind of said, there's money where the struggle. And he politely said, he wasn't buying it. What say you, Jim Cullison? All you got to do is do a video a day. That's it. Every day of every week.
Well, that's the baseline. Yes, that's true. But then that's just the baseline. Then what's the material? What's the content? How well are you making the content? Is it reaching its intended audience? Are you interesting? Do people want to? I'm always shocked at what is considered interesting. Just last night, I'm on YouTube surfing around, and I find this guy who goes into dog shelters. So these are animals that have lost their owners or whatever, dog shelters. And he sits with them and he talks about them and talks to them. And just all he's doing is telling you about his time sitting with dogs in the shelter. 3.8 million subscribers to his channel. And he just sits there and tells you about the dog and things he's learned. He's not a dog expert. He's not a veterinarian. He's not doing anything different. He's just sitting down. And a lot of these dogs, I mean, they've been abused or they're in trouble, some of those kinds of things. And he's very good at it, has a great voice for it. He's one of these guys, after about a half an hour of watching this, I was like, where did that time go? It was very engaging. I was like, I'd sit with him in the kennel. He was that engaging, right? But 3.8 million. So who would have thought going into a shelter and sitting with dogs would have been 3.8 million subscribers? Who would have thought?
What I would love to see is how many of those dogs then get adopted. Because
he goes back and talks about it. So he'll have a dog and then he'll interview the family and he'll do some. And his videos are the quality of the videos are very, very well done. He walks you through a story of his day in the kennel of going around. He's like, but wait, okay, let's go look at this. And I mean, it's just very, very well done. There's a lot of talent there. So, I mean, could I take a camera and go into our local shelter and record myself sitting with dogs? Yeah. Would I get 3.8 million subscribers? I don't know. Probably not. I don't have the kind of the editing and the talent chops to know how to record those or what angles to do or how to mix that all together. It's got to be an enormous amount of work, right? Listen, I watch YouTubers all the time that put out stuff every day. Is it interesting? Sometimes, but other times they're like, no, I'm good. So does it guarantee it? No, but it is a baseline.
Yeah, Todd the Gator says, if the quality of the content is poor, a video day will not work well. Yeah, I'll give you an example. When I worked in a grocery store back in the day, and we were going out of business. And so the last day, like I'm all of 22, we're all A, hammered, and B, they had hot dogs. And the person that was running the deli was like, look, if you guys want a hot dog, just take a hot dog. He said that like the last week. It's like, if you guys want to, just take a hot dog, whatever. I ate so many hot dogs in 1 week that to this day, if somebody goes, you want a hot dog? I'm like, no. And so, yes, I ate a hot dog every day. It wasn't very good. And then at the time I liked hot dogs, but just because it's daily, like I don't like, Jim, what's your favorite podcast? And Jim goes, oh, I love this show. I'm like, oh, great. Tell me about it. He goes, well, it's daily. And I'm like, yeah, but like, he's like, no, I just listen because he's there every day. I'm like, no. So, you know, it's not the schedule that makes people tune in. It may set you apart, but that's not the main thing. Speaking of weird things people are watching, Jeff Townsend, now I have to make sure he calls himself not the Podfather, because that's Adam Curry and that makes me upset. He's the podcast father. But anyway, a really nice guy. He said, I was just on TikTok and witnessed a live stream where 150,000 people were watching a lady sleep. Come on.
Remember the Blad guy? What was his name? There was the Blad guy that did that. What was his name?
Oh, I forget. But just again, I'm like, you just kind of want to go, wait, isn't there something else you should be doing? Like, I guess is the whole draw of that, I wonder what happens next. Like, when is that person going to wait?
I think it's chat. I think that's the draw, right? So you're watching this, and then there's chat I think there should be chat alongside it. Listen, we have a local Bellevue, Nebraska, where I live. We have a kind of a local Facebook page that's kind of uncensored for the most part. And so people can really say anything they want. And it's all people in the area and stuff. And so like just yesterday, we had a controlled burn going on at one of our big forestry areas up here. And of course, so it made this big cloud of smoke, and everybody's like, what's the smoke from? The comments, Dave, were hilarious. Like there were quotes from Gandalf and Lord of the Rings, and there was like there's just all these, there's all these quotes, and I think the person sleeping is just the excuse to get people together, and then they're kind of watching the video, but I think it's more about the chat at that point, and that's a different kind of dynamic. This is the Truman Show effect, right? As you think about just watching people live. And people, there are times, I mean, I kind of enjoy watching people just live, do their thing, whatever they're passionate about, right? I watch this guy who cuts wood and sells it to people. I watch that on YouTube. Like he shows himself going out and delivering wood and cutting it and splitting it and stacking it. And, and you're like, why would that be interesting? Because I don't do it. And I'm interested in that. It's something satisfying about that, right? So.
Yeah.
This will be my last week on the show. You're going to throw me off now that I know that I watch people stack wood.
Well, no, but I mean, even Todd says, I don't understand some content today. I'm also waiting for YouTube to copyright strike those reposts. Yeah, because there are people that are just posting other people's stuff.
Yeah, that got mentioned earlier, and that was Todd's response to that. Yep. Yeah, they're just downloading it. It's easy to do on YouTube now. There's a download button. Yeah. You can download it, and now it's the copyright catches. That's not the right word, but your ability to get people stealing your stuff has never been easier to find because they do that for you. Go into the copyright section in YouTube Studio, you can see it, you can click on it and say, hey, at Gallup I have 2 different channels, and we absolutely steal the content from one to make the other, and that shows up in the copyright space all the time. But I'm okay with that, so I just archive them. If somebody else was doing that and I wanted to say, hey, you need to take this down, YouTube makes an easy way for you to do that. And they're really, those tools are getting better.
Well, it wasn't a strike, but last week, and I make almost no money on YouTube with this channel, but I got a demonetization. I don't know what, basically the coffee song that we play. Yeah, they're like, hey, that's Dan Moss or something, and blah, 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 and your revenue will now be split with the guy that sings the coffee song. I'm like, I've been using that song for years, maybe because I'm talking over it or whatever, but I was like, do I have to find a new coffee song now to, play under the ad for Mark? I was like...
Well, or let him be a part of the show.
Right.
Like he's a musician. He created a great...
Yeah,
it's considerate royalty payment for using his art.
Yeah. Here is
hold on, Dave, before we switch.
Yeah.
How great would it be for you if someone took your content, put it on, and mixed it into a channel for advertising, and YouTube caught that and then said, hey, you're going to share this revenue with Dave Jackson, you'd be like, hey, do that every week, right?
It's true.
You're welcome to use my content if it's going to automatically create a revenue share for me. Granted, it may not be much, but it may be.
Yeah.
You'd be fine with that, right?
YouTube, their tagline should be, hey, when you make money, we actually let you keep some of it.
Or when you make money, something's wrong. That's usually
yeah. Here we go. Wait a minute. Here's another question. This is about not chapters, but seasons. Some podcasts I follow on Apple have tabs for each season. Mine does not, but it's also a feed from Anchor. We're sorry to hear that. However, I can see on Apple Podcast Connect that it knows what episode is on what season. How do I make Apple split them out for listeners to jump to a season easily? The first thing I would do there would be go into Anchor and make sure you have your season and your episode numbers there. That would be the first thing. And if you do, then they're a Big Shot Smarty Pants or something that they have some sort of special privilege. Maybe I've never set up a channel. I should in Apple Podcasts where you can have a channel and then you list all of your shows. I've never done that. Probably should. And maybe that's because I know it looks a little special when you have a channel. I've never done that, but that would be my advice. Would go back and check to make sure you're putting in the season in the Anchor. I've never gotten seasons myself unless I'm a team of 18. We're going to take 4 months off. So
yeah, we do seasons of Gallup just because Call the Coach fits that way. It fits nicely in that. I'm not sure. We even put season and episode numbers at the end of the title. So it's more for us than it is for the audience. I'm not sure I've ever said, oh yeah, that was back in season 6. It's episode 5. I don't know if I've ever done that for the user. It's more for our organization of it, I think, than anything. But doesn't mean you shouldn't do it or can't be done. It's easy. In Spreaker, we use Spreaker as a host. They make that super easy. Seasons and episode numbers in Spreaker, very easy. And they have a nice little interface to be able to tell them apart. And to see if you haven't tagged them into that setting. So good work, Spreaker.
That's it. And Chris has an idea. And maybe next time I'm on the road, Jim, we'll just put a camera in your room. Maybe you guys can do a show. We'll just watch Jim take a nap. Let him sleep in one Saturday. That would be awesome.
Snoring. A lot of snoring. Would not be good.
Do we feel, in the immortal words of Dirty Harry, do we feel lucky? Do we feel okay? Because Craig is in the green room. Yeah, and Craig, we have a Craig, he does the Live Well and Flourish show. And you don't have to turn on your video. And Craig has decided not to. But the last time we did this, it could end poorly. So we'll see what happens.
He's in the witness protection program.
That's it. So
witness number 2.
I'll know but this may be a quick time with Craig. Hopefully he's not gonna, what would you call it? Sporn? Yeah, sporn. It's spam and it's porn. You put them together, you get sporn. So
no, I think
we're okay. Craig, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, but I think you've got the wrong Craig. It's Craig from the UK. Dave.
It is. Well, there you go. Well, you went to askthepodcastcoach.com/question.
I did, because I've got a question.
Oh, well, good. Excellent. It's Craig.
No.
Before we start, what are some good British words that aren't too dirty?
Because
rubbish
this
is good.
podcast is rubbish.
Okay. Excellent. Any other ones?
No, I will send you a list. I can't do it off the top of my head, but I'm sure that I can get 10 or 12 words for you, Dave. I don't know why my video isn't working. It's a mystery to me. I've got my webcam on, but I don't know what's happening.
I don't know that I can. No, I can't. I won't even try. I'll end up having balloons show up, and so it's great to hear your voice, my friend. It's always great to hear you. So, what can we help you with?
It's been a while. Hello, Jim. Hello, Dave. Good to see you guys. And I do have a question. We're approaching our 500th episode very shortly. Thank you for the applause. And no, normally we don't celebrate the landmarks. I think maybe on the 100th episode of the podcast, we did something, but I just feel that 500 is a thing. It's been 10 years, and I'm just wondering what we might be able to do to celebrate it. I mean, obviously, you can ask the audience to send in comments, and wouldn't it be wonderful if there was some AI program that could scan the last 499 episodes and take out the best bits and make it into a half-an-hour podcast? That would be fantastic. But I'm just trying to think of how we can best serve the audience with something celebratory that would bring everything together for 500. I don't know if you've got any ideas, or anyone in the chat room might have some ideas, because we've been racking our brains and we can't come up with anything.
That's a good question, because I have swung and missed on this many times.
Dave, you think for a second. Craig, we home server show that I used to do, we did a big 100th podcast episode, and this was 10 years ago, 11 years ago, when 100 was a big deal, right? And we turned the whole episode into what they called congratulatory backslapping. The audience did, where we just congratulated ourselves the whole show. Like, look how great we are, and this congratulations on this.
Yeah, I don't really want to do that.
Yeah, we had listeners call in with comments and congratulatory stuff, and it didn't go over well. I think you could, in a regular episode, you could acknowledge it for 5 or 10 minutes, telling the audience in the beginning, hey, we're at the 500 episode. We want to just recognize that, and we'll do a few things. We're going to get to the regular content here. Or you could tag that on to the end of a program and say, hey, at the end of the show, we're going to talk a little bit about what it means for us to have done the 500th episode. So if for the most engaged listeners that want that, they can stay after at the end for that extra bonus content, so to speak. But for those who don't want to, they don't, maybe they just joined it. They don't care about some of those kinds of things. But so that may, from a format perspective, either one of those may work for you. I like the idea of just tagging it on to the end of the show, so the most engaged listeners can hear it, because they will. A few will stay. I don't know. React to that, Craig. Does any of that sound like it might work?
No, that does sound good. So it will be a normal episode. Well, a normal episode. It will be an episode that didn't refer to the landmark, and then at the end, or you could maybe tease it and say at the end, we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to us, and hopefully what it means to you for reaching this landmark. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
It gets the appropriate. It gets the appropriate feeling. It definitely tease it in the beginning. Hey, we're celebrating 500. We've created some bonus content on the end of this. If you want to stay around for it, it'll be there. So that way they know, like, they're listening for it.
Yeah,
and then you can do some fun things at the end to recognize that. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, Jeff says maybe the top 10 most listened to and not listened to recap. Todd the Gator is saying they could do a live show with your community. I know the one that I did once where, and Craig from livewelandflourish.com, who is an AI guru, he says, check out Claude from Anthropic. It can handle some really long documents. So if you wanted to do like a summary, that might be able to do it than something like that. But I did one once where, like, ask me anything, and people still just ask me about podcasting, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, the whole point was, let's let Dave tell stories. But if you don't know Dave, then you don't know what quite. So that didn't work. It could. I mean, that could have really worked. I almost would think of like maybe like the live show would be good if you could do it beforehand, and then if it works, use it. If it doesn't work, then you just had a fun time with your community. I always throw out the the format and do something weird. And like I say, sometimes that has worked, and other times it has really not worked.
Yeah, so, the Pinky and the Brand. No, what's the
Binky and the Wiz? Everybody remembers Binky and the Wiz, and I got really good reviews for. I interviewed Jesus on episode 900, and people said that was very creative. Yeah. And
Craig, what's the best? What do you get the best feedback on your content? Like, where does your audience really engage?
On the chemistry, I'd say, because they're language learners. So there are podcasts that teach English, but I think they like the dynamic I have with the co-host, and we've had some really great moments over the years. It's just, I mean, I just don't know. I suppose I could go back and pick out nice moments where it was fun, we were laughing, those highlights, but wouldn't it be nice if AI could do that for me rather than going back over the last 400 and so episodes to do it manually?
Why not spend 20 minutes with the two of you just reminiscing about your favorite moments? Just recreate those so you don't have to go through all the work to find them, pull those kinds of things out. I'm sure over 500 episodes, you each have 2 or 3 moments that are your favorites. And if they enjoy the chemistry, allow that chemistry to happen for 15 to 20 to 25. I'm making that up. You can do it as long or as short as you want, right? But allow that chemistry.
That's I like that. That's nice, Jim. Yeah, thanks. No, I'll think on that and speak to my co-host about it. But it just feels like, 500 just feels like something. We should do something. Where, we've never really celebrated any, apart from maybe one, I think 100. Apart from that, we've never really marked any episode numbers. It just feels like 500, 10 years seems like we should say something and do something.
Yeah, I agree. I think you should. Yeah.
How many weeks, like, is episode 500 like this week, or do you have like a month until it shows up?
Tomorrow is 493.
Okay.
493.
You got a little bit. Yeah. So you could always try, if you wanted to do the thing where you reminisce with your co-host, you could try that and go, did that work? Yeah, I thought that was good. Or, so you've got a little bit of time to kind of play with some of these ideas and then pick the best one and, go from there.
One thing just occurring to me, talking to you guys, one thing we could do is we have a lot of voice messages coming in, maybe one a week we play. So if I went back through the voice messages and featured the students that have sent in messages and make it about them more than us would be nice.
And speaking of that, Jeff just brought up, I was like, oh yeah, nobody has said this yet. Ask your audience. Like, hey, we're thinking of doing something.
Yeah, I asked last week. I'm waiting for the.
Still waiting for the answers.
Yeah. Takes a while. Takes a while for those to come in. The good news is, Craig, you're ahead of the game on this. You're 6 or 7 weeks out. If you're a weekly, are you a weekly show? Is that what you doing? Weekly?
Yeah, but we batch record locally. So he's coming over in a week or so, 10 days, and we'll record probably 3 or 4 episodes in one batch. So I want to get that.
Right. Yeah, you want to get that kind of planned. Well, but you're still ahead of the game. And so it sounds like you got a few good ideas there maybe to run with. And the easiest thing to do is just for the two of you to reminisce a little bit and you've got your content, Yeah.
Okay, well, good things to think about. Thanks, guys. Yeah. And next week for you over there is Thanksgiving.
Yes.
So I want to thank you two for doing this consistently. Really appreciate this show. So thanks so much for that. That's what I'm thankful for.
Well, thank you for that. Is there any kind of Thanksgiving in Spain?
No, we don't do it over here. Yeah. No.
There's no turkeys.
They don't care over there. Just get to work.
I've got a joke for you though.
Oh, all right. Hold on. I got it. Go ahead.
What's brown and sticky?
Brown and sticky. Poo?
A stick. Come on.
All right.
Where does your mind go? Great to talk to you guys. See you next week.
Take care. Good to talk to you as well. You bet. Have a good evening.
Speaking of poo, there's a transition you don't use much.
You should have the emoji for that.
That's it.
Is there something I can put on the screen where the emoji show
exactly. Maybe you hold your nose and a big emoji shows up. No, congrats to John Lee Dumas and Kate Erickson. They welcomed their little baby boy on the 14th. Poor kid was born with pneumonia. Yeah, and from what I understand, they've been babies on the right track back to health, and it was just a little speed bump, but they're getting it done. So here we go. Danny says on episode 500, congrats, that's amazing. It is. I have a 1-year anniversary next month and getting a bunch of my favorite podcasters on the show to share their smarts with my listeners. There you go. Todd the Gator. At the end of the year, we always put a clips montage at the end of the show, funny moments from the last year, a very good soundbite, etc. If you're going to do that, not a bad idea. But as we all just said, is there any way for AI to do this? Like, because I've thought about this multiple times, and I'm going, yeah, let's that way when, episode 1000 comes, I'll have a bunch of clips to play. You just have to do it every week. Like, you have to go, what's the clip of the week, or what's the clip from this show, and go that route. And it's because it's the fun thing is, if you do these, like I love the fact that you did one at 100 and one at 5. And like, because if you do one every 100, you kind of run out of ideas, and then you're like, not really sure what to do.
You did one. You've done some different. 400 was a big deal. 900 was a big deal. I'm coming up. We're coming up on 600 on Home Gadget Geeks, and I'm starting to think through. I'm 9 weeks away, probably a little bit more, like 10 or 11 weeks away. So kind of thinking through, do I want to do anything? I've had guests. I've had previous hosts from the past on. I've also done anniversary ones where, we the 13 years, we'll celebrate 13 years on December 10th. And so around that first week of December, we do like hey, just a little bit of acknowledgement. We don't spend a ton of time going back. The tech space changes so much. Although in the tech space, I could probably do a really good reminiscing, like, get off my lawn, old technology. Remember when Windows couldn't do this and that? And although you can't do too much of that, I listened to a podcast, and I won't name it. I won't name the name, Windows Weekly, where the two hosts are really good at history. Like, they both understand history, and every show now is a reminiscing show about the way it was. As they're talking about the way it is, you get 45 minutes of context on the way it was. and that's cool every once in a while, but I'm getting I'm growing a little thin on that. There's maybe 20 minutes of new content, and the rest of it's just reminiscing. And you're kind of like, I mean, if you like it, if you like that kind of stuff, talking about history, well, it's a great podcast for you. But I'm more interested in what's going on, what's going on. It would be like you and I every week talking about Adam Curry. Oh no, we do that.
Well, I have to apologize for the audio only listeners, but that's what I mean when I say elephant tampon. It's a big white plastic tube looking thing, and
I'll never look at that the same way again. Thanks, Dave Jackson.
I'm sure Circle appreciates that. You know what else? Speaking of thankful and appreciation and things of that nature, we want to say thanks to our awesome supporters. We're up to 34. I checked this morning. I was like, all right, we're on the way to 40. You can be an awesome supporter by going to askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome. And of course, this show, if you'd like more tips, and you can get unlimited one-on-one coaching over at the School of Podcasting, use the coupon code COACH. And come become an awesome member of the School of Podcasting. We run on Podpage. If you want to check out Podpage, go to trypodpage.com. And we also, here's the thing that really sucked this morning. To their credit, ECAM has let me ride for free and they told me, like, hey, we'll give you a couple months. My free, like, courtesy kick the tires time ran out this morning, so I had to update today if I was going to do the show on ECAM.
Oh.
And next week I know they're going to like, hey! And the other thing I did that was stupid, because my knee-jerk reaction is when I can buy a year and take that savings, I should have bought a month, waited for Black Friday, assuming they're going to have one. So anyway, we do run on ECAM. If you wonder how did we get so pretty, well, then go over to supportthishow.com/ECAM and go that route and check it out. If you need more Jim Collison, and who doesn't, check out Home Gadget Geeks. You can go to theaverageguy.tv, or if you want to be crazy, you can go to homegadgetgeeks.com. Both will take you to the same place. And
well, not technically. The Home Gadget Geeks goes sponsored by Podpage. They do that.
Nice.
Yeah.
And the Spotlight Support of the Week, this guy has, I didn't realize he had so many shows. Ross Brand over at livestreamuniverse.com. He's got Livestream Stars. He's got Ross Brand on podcasting. He's got all sorts of stuff. I didn't realize he had so many shows going over there. So, Ross, thank you for your $20 support. We do appreciate that. Check him out at livestreamuniverse.com. And again, we're on the journey to 40. And you could be that awesome supporter by going to askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome. Do it now. So
what's an Ecamm subscription cost these days for the annual?
$32 a month, which is cheaper than the pro version on StreamYard. And again, I don't hate StreamYard. I just got a Mac now, and hey, it's cheaper, and it does a little more of a learning curve, but if I was on a PC still, I would still be using StreamYard. The other thing I like, by the way, askthepodcastcoach.com/ECAM is my affiliate link. And here's a novel idea. If somebody signs up, I get a small amount of money for that. And where with StreamYard, I got paid in StreamYard bucks, which, I cannot use so I have to go look, because I thought about that this morning when I upgraded to Ecamm. I'm like, I need to go and cancel my StreamYard account. And I'm like, my guess is, because I've referred a lot of people to StreamYard, and I'm like, I bet my next year is probably free if I just let it go. So, so they're both really good products. So keep that in mind. Here is a quick question. I'm surprised this is still, I bet in 2024, this is going to be something that changes, because I've been recommending the Zoom Podtrac P4 forever. And they're like, it's not 32-bit float, but somebody's like, hey, I'm looking to buy a Zoom Podtrac P4 for a friend's Christmas present. She's on a MacBook Pro running Mac OS Sonoma. My Sonoma, will there be compatibility problems? I can't seem to find any information on the Zoom site. Yeah, it works fine with both. So if you're interested in the Zoom Podtrac P4, check out, you guessed it. I think it's supportthishow.com/P4. So that's it. If we go, SP is in the room. First Daniel says Ecamm has done Black Friday CM. Christmas money before, not sure what BFCM stands for, but anyway, yeah, they have done. So if they do, if I get like hosed, I'll just go, hey, I bought this like a week ago. Can I get the Black Friday deal?
And Black Friday, Cyber Monday is the
Cyber Monday. There we go. And then SP says, what kind of gas mileage do you get running on Ecamm? It's like 87 or 93 octane. It's a little more 93. It's pretty cool. I like it. Does Podcast Coach group have a Discord? No, we don't. We have a Patreon, which is not my favorite, but we did have some chats going on this week. Do
they have a chat feature in Patreon?
They have a chat feature because I sent out bonus content this week. So that's another reason why you should be an awesome supporter. And it was about just some insights on editing and keep the flame alive. Her. I'm drawing a blank on her name. I want to say Elizabeth, but that's not right. Anyway, so she was like, oh, thanks so much. That really helps me, because she does a lot of interviews all about, the whole Olympic thing. So, so the only thing I hate about Discord, well, number one, see, that's the whole thing. Like, if we have another community, we already have one. It's on Patreon, and,
is it though? I mean, isn't that limited to just
paid
Patreons?
People? Yeah,
paid people.
Yeah.
So no real public space where you could let people come, and then you can.
Yeah, you can go to askthepodcastcoach.com/ask if you're listening later and you're like, oh, they're not live now, and you can leave a voicemail message and we'll answer it on the show. But there's no actual community.
Yeah,
so
there's a lot of podcast groups out there.
There are a ton.
I think the chat serves for us. The chat serves as that, that group Discord. What's the wrong word to use? The group chat on Saturdays while we're here. I think that's just kind of for you and I both. We both manage really large communities during the week, and great idea, Rich.
He says, is there another group, or is it just all Dave all the time? Yeah, it's this show, for if you haven't figured this out, is me kind of going, look, let's talk podcasting. Oh, by the way, schoolofpodcasting.com, where you can get unlimited, questions answered all the time. And a really, really, like Craig from Live Well and Flourish is in the as is, yep, I'm drawing a blank. That guy, Todd the Gator, is in our group. So it's if you're looking for another really cool, really like no spam at all kind of group, we have some really interesting discussions over there about AI stuff. So if you're looking for another community, schoolofpodcasting.com, it's just not free, but the good things usually aren't. And then Jeff says this, which is kind of like why I don't like Patreon, is Jeff was kicked out of Patreon. They occasionally, if they don't, well, Jeff, why did they kick you out? That would be a good thing. But I know they've kicked out other people. Like one lady did something. It was something about Greenpeace. Like had nothing to do with her show. It was something she did in her personal life, and she protested somebody, and they're like, wait, you don't think like I do? Well, we must cancel you and, rob you of any form of, livelihood, because that's what we do when you think different than I do. So it's yeah. It goes, Dave won't even take my support. Why will I not take your support? That's Jeff. You always say this, that I won't let you in. I'm like, I have never blocked anything of yours. I don't know if that's just a running gag, but I would gladly take your money. So, all right. Back at the questions. Meanwhile, here's another fun one. And this is, I think, another thing we're going to see in 2024. We talked about the P4. I think the other one is going to be this, which is best shirt clip mic for streaming and streaming app. In fact, I like that question so much, I copied it twice. I think right now, and this is one of those totally depends. I think right now, because I bought one, and then of course they came out with a new one, which, that always makes you feel great. I bought a Rode Wireless Go, and literally 2 months after I bought it, they came out with the Rode Wireless Pro. And the Rode Wireless Pro, taps into the Rodecaster line. So if you want to do that, that's cool. So now you got all your fun processing. And it's 32-bit float. And 32-bit float in English kind of means that it's really hard to make bad audio unless you have like a popping P problem or something like that. It's if you record way too soft, you can basically raise it back up without introducing a bunch of hiss. And if you clip the bejesus out of it, you can actually, and this is the one I'm like, really? You can somehow bring it down and it will not sound all distorted. So that's why I'm really surprised Zoom hasn't upgraded the P4 with a new, maybe a little less plasticky version of it. Because they have like a little wireless kind of transmitter thingamabob that's 32, but like everything on Zoom right now is 32-bit float except the P4 and the P8 and everything that came out before that. But yeah,
I don't like the boxy design of those lav, the wireless lav mics.
Yeah, me neither. I really love
I see people clip to the shirt down here, or I've seen the a magnetic approach to it, but you got this big box. I mean, I get it. I get that you need to have this box of some kind, and it's easier to get it there. I mean, I'm kind of an old school lav guy where you bring the microphone up and clip it, to kind of keep the microphone as small as possible. I get all that stuff. I just wish we could do it somehow. We have not found the killer format for that, right? It's still kind of clunky, and I want so desperately to use some of those kinds of things. But first of all, I couldn't put it here. It would drive me crazy. I'd be tugging at it and touching it, kind of thing. I just don't have that kind of discipline. So I wish there was a better format. Maybe someone will invent one here where it just, it just doesn't look so, and I get why we do it, right? We get it. It sounds a lot better to do it than coming off a camera mic. That's why we do it.
Right.
So when you guys invent a better format, I don't have any ideas, but we need a better form factor.
Yeah. My plan was to basically use the, their lav plugs into the wireless glow and just have the lav plugged into my, my shirt. And cause I'm with you. I like the DJI mic. Their wireless system is like the size of your thumb. So you had a much smaller clip on that, but it didn't tie into the Rodecaster. And I was like, well, and that's when I was like, well, I've got the Rode Smart Lav, so I'm like, let's do that. So, Dave has a question. Where can you get a shirt like the one I'm wearing that says schoolofpodcasting.com? That is at podcastclothes.com. And that will take you over to my Teespring website, which, yes, 35% off everything. And you can see there's a bunch of shirts over there. Don't be boring. There's everybody, if you want your own WKRP, there's a bunch of, and I didn't design all these. Some of these Mark designed, I remember for a while, but there are a bunch of just podcasting related shirts. So podcastclothes.com. And I think I make a good 38 cents if you buy a shirt or something ridiculous like that. But that's something. I was looking at Printful. I know there's a ton of these different sites, but Printful is a tool where you can make your own kind of swag and stuff like that. And the thing I liked about it is they really have a ton of education on like how to design a t-shirt that like people will actually buy and things like that. I was reading a book from, I think I mentioned this last week, the McElroy people. It's called Everybody Has a Podcast Except You. And they did My Brother, and Me. And they said, hire a designer because, like Mark, somebody that knows how to make something that people would buy. And then he goes, you might even want to throw them a royalty deal because they get paid once. Yes, we did mention this because I remember saying this and saying now Mark's going to want a royalty on all the School of Podcasting stuff. Yeah. Here we go. Jeff got how Patreon works mixed up. He was kicked out for charging creator supporter fees. Huh. Interesting. I don't know if that's a joke or not, but I just know people that politics kind of gets involved and, then they get you kicked out for one reason or another. But most people clip the Rode mics on the wrong side too, but you can attach a lav mic to the Rode. Yep, that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. My thing,
Daniel, what does the wrong side mean? I haven't heard that.
It is, well.
The wrong side of I gotcha. I'm tracking. I was thinking like wrong side of the shirt. I was like, is there a right or a left hand rule on this thing? I didn't know, but I understand what he's talking about. Flipping it's flipped, should be flipped to a single side.
Yeah, and as you might imagine, now that you've seen my desk, I can't find my Rode wireless mic. Anyway, but I'm just going to use the lav mic, and then that will go into the wireless thing, which is stupid because, it's going a good 1.5 feet. So I need that wireless connectivity. I do have a thing that I could plug the lav mic right into the Rodecaster that converts that little, whatever it is, 1/8 inch jack to XLR. But and then Gary, this is another one. They have the Wireless Me kit. So Rode has a really cool iPhone app that you can. It basically uses your front and back camera and splits you and puts you on top of each other. So it's just one of those things where, are there better programs than Rode? I don't know, but I just know it's nice having the same thing why I have a bunch of Elgato stuff. There's definitely an Elgato tax when you pay that stuff, but I like the fact that everything just kind of works together. Like the other day, I rebooted my computer and it connected to the wrong Wi-Fi. And I was like, crap. So I'm hitting my Stream Deck and like my lights aren't going on and off. I'm like, hold on a second, pulled up my phone, launched the app, hit the button, and it turned off my lights. So it is kind of convenient when stuff works that way. So, but Jim, have you ever tried swag with anything? I know I mentioned Printful. Have you ever?
We did shirts. Yeah, we've done shirts, and I've had guys print 3D 3D coins for me. We've done that before. I might have even had a mug at some point, a coffee cup. So yeah, I've tried it. I'm not a big fan. It's just a lot it's gotten better. The print on demand thing has gotten better, right? Yeah. And so you can create some designs and they can just print it and kind of stuff like that. It's just, I never wanted to set that stuff up. So I just never did, but it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Why do you ask?
Just because in that book, again, that I was reading, they said, when do I make merch? And basically, Dave just proved the question. Oh, I didn't realize we have somebody in the green room. Holy cow. Oh, Danny Brown, the one and only. But they said, bring in merch when people ask for it. And I'm like, that's kind of it. Because what happens is people make merch, and then nobody buys it, and then you get discouraged and you die. So look at him; he's got a cool checkerboard background and everything. Danny Brown, how are you, buddy?
I'm all good, thank you very much. Good morning, gents. How are you doing?
Good, man.
Good.
What time
Good
is it there on your side of on that side of the screen?
It's just before midday. It's 11:55, so it's just before midday. I'm on the Eastern time zone over here in Ontario, Canada.
I got to tell you, that's the best accent ever. It's just like, I know you don't work hard at it, but man, you could read the phone book and be like, that's it. So
thank you. It's funny, my kids keep telling me to speak Scottish. Thinking I'm just talking right now. So okay, fair enough.
It sounds kind of Scottish. Yeah, that's for sure.
A wee bit. Well, I've been away from Scotland for about 20 years now, so it's probably softened a lot.
Probably. Yeah, if you really spoke it, we wouldn't be able to
I'd be like, what did he say? Can we get some
What?
subtitles on that? Yeah, exactly.
I used to actually have a fun podcast a few years back called The Old Man Brown Show, and it's basically me really emphasizing a Scottish accent, but from an angry old Scotsman, and it's just like really going to town on I think it was Nicki Minaj's cousin when his balls grew super big because he got vaccinated, and he was saying the vaccine caused him his testicles to expand. It's like, okay, so just like stuff like that. Just like, I should revisit it sometime. I know Jess is a big fan.
Oh boy.
What can we help you with?
So I'm kind of curious, guys, what you think, what the industry can do, if anything, to make an industry standard for normalized sound. Because obviously, like Spotify's got like -14 LUFS, Apple -16. Then you've got ads, dynamic ads that get kicked in that sounds like they've got it at +50, +16. You've got to take your headphones off. Is there something as an industry we can do to really make it standard on all audio?
Yeah, that would be great.
It's so hard to get podcasters to agree on anything. And now these podcast companies are involved in this. And I think it's going to take we got to get the host companies and to say, hey, you're going to have to submit this at this standard. But I just don't, that's still pretty technical, don't you think? For a lot of folks, they don't really understand those kinds of things. And I don't know, Dave, what do you think?
Well, I know like Buzzsprout somewhat does. They have a magic mastering, which is just auphonic behind the scenes, and they've said that. That kind of helps, but I've never thought about this. How do they do that and still make chapters? There's a lot going on after you upload the file, because that's the whole thing, is if you have chapters in your MP3 file and they're redoing the whole file, like that would get a little wonky. I had somebody today or yesterday at Lips, and they're like, hey, what's going on? The ads are way too loud. And I said, that could be a possibility. What are you recording at? Maybe it's just that your show is way too soft. Like they might be at -16 and you're recording way down here. So when the ad comes on, it's blowing your head off. But I don't know.
Dan, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you think? Because I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like a bit of everything that you mentioned. Like at a host level, obviously we can do so much to normalize volume when it comes in. But then once it gets out to the end platforms, can they do something? It's have to be an industry standard, first of all. Yeah, and then, like you say, if you've got chapters in there, and then dynamic, and then you've got DAI coming in, it's like there's a lot of moving parts, right? But it's just, there's nothing worse. Like listening to a nice show, it's nice and quiet. So you got the volume up, and then an ad comes in, or whatever. You think, oh my grief.
Yeah. What do you think about the players taking care of it? In other words, like on Overcast, you can set the speed and do some things with it. If you had a player that could dynamically, I mean, our phones could probably handle this now. Audio is not that hard, and it doesn't take that much processing power. If you had a player that would do that for you, would you be more inclined to use that player? Could that be a selling point for some of these?
Definitely. I mean, I use the Spotify app, but the weird thing is I've got the settings on Spotify to be normalized, so it keeps the level, or it's meant to keep the level the same at all audio, but songs coming at different levels, and I've got to adjust the volume there. So even Spotify doesn't get it right when it comes to that app, but maybe it's a podcast 2.0 tag that gets it, utilize it somewhere down the line.
Yeah, I know. I use Cast-O-Matic. I think that's it. Yeah, Cast-O-Matic, and it has kind of an auto leveling thing. But when I was driving around a couple weeks ago, I heard a couple shows that I'm like, look, this is supposed to, it was so between, and what was weird is 1 minute, like the person would be right up on the mic and then they'd ask him another question and it sounded like he was in another room. And I'm screaming in my car. I'm like, can you not hear? Like, I want to look at their WAV file because it had to just take a huge roller coaster. And I was like, who's editing this thing? It was crazy.
Do you think the podcasters are doing it? Do you think the platforms that benefit from the ads are jacking up, like, on TV?
Yeah.
We know the network is jacking up we know that they're jacking up the commercial volume. Do you think that's happening at that level, or is it just bad? Is it just podcasters inserting where their volume's too low, knowing that not knowing the inserted ads are going to be louder at a standard? And maybe it's the whole editing. And dynamic ads could also do a better job of listening to the volume knowing the volume of that file and saying, hey, let's match the dynamic ad volume to the podcast volume. But nobody wants to spend time worrying about that. They just want to sell ads, right?
I just know on the advertised cast side, they do pay attention to that because, as you might imagine, advertisers want you to listen to their ad, not so much skip it because you've just made them deaf, So, but I agree, it is a problem. We need to come up with something, but I don't have anything off the top of my head besides it seems like the answer would be if the host could do it, but that's a tall order because there's already a lot of stuff going on with that. So, Todd the Gator just gave us a super chat. Holy cow. Wait a minute.
So did Gary.
Look at you guys being all, is it because it's Thanksgiving? You know what it is?
I think so.
It's Danny. Danny needs to come on.
Danny, you got to join us now every week. It's the Scottish accent that gets
They've just
done.
published transcripts for Danny's accent supporters up in there.
Auto translate the accent.
That's it.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
But
Danny, anything else? Any other thoughts?
No, guys, just really enjoying the show. This is the first time I've actually joined it live. I normally watch it in replay, but really enjoying it. And happy Thanksgiving when it arrives for you next week.
Yeah, and for you, happy Thursday.
There you go.
Yeah, they already had their Thanksgiving.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. All right, guys.
Danny, thanks for jumping in.
Cheers, guys.
Take
care.
Thank you. Yeah, super chats. I mean, that we got to pull out David Lee Roth for that. By the way, David Lee Roth has completely lost his mind. If you go to YouTube, type in David Lee Roth, alligator pants, you're just like, what am I watching? What is this? It's somebody who really apparently likes to entertain himself and thinks he's very entertaining. And I was just like, this is very weird. But anyway, Jim, what's coming up on theaverageguy.tv?
I alluded to it a little bit earlier. Erin Lawrence from Tech Gadgets Canada joins us, and she actually tried out TEMU and has kind of a review, and I've embedded the video of her review in there as well. We talked a little bit about it. So if you want more reasons not to purchase a TEMU, you can head out right now. It's on HomeGadgetGeeks.com right now.
And on the School of Podcasting, here's the fun thing. This is crazy. The episode's already done. Yeah, I did it last night. I'm like, I need to do this more often because I have time to listen to it and shape it and things like that. I have Daniel Alphen, he's been on LinkedIn since 2004. Wrote a book about it, which is completely out of date. But really good guy, gave me some advice on some things, pointed out like, hey, that's not good and this isn't good. So we're talking who should be on LinkedIn, how often should I post on LinkedIn, everything you wanted to know about LinkedIn, but we're afraid to ask is coming up on the School of Podcasting. And of course, you can find that at schoolofpodcasting.com/follow. And speaking of that, you can see this show, askthepodcastcoach.com/follow. Let's see how many calls to action we can throw in here. If you go to askthepodcastcoach.com/ask, if you're listening to this later, you can send in a voicemail and we will play it on the show and answer your questions that way. Thanks to the awesome chat room. It's always great. We got another super chat. Can I mix David Lee Roth in here while I'm playing? You know what? This is one thing I need to. Yeah, see, Dave's yeah, exactly. He's dancing to the music now. So thank you for that. And we will be here next week. We'll be here on Black Saturday, I guess, because it's the day after Black Friday, right? Is that working?
We need to come up with better names for that Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, that's not it. So
we'll work on it.
Yep. Anyway, we'll see you next week. Okay, I didn't hit the end button yet. Too busy trying to get balloons to come up.